Good afternoon or good evening on whatever time you're watching us. This is InterFace Gambia. My name is Lamin Jaiteh. Today we have a very important guest in our studio here. He's Essa Faal. Mr. Faal is the lead counsel at the Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC. Essa, welcome to InterFace Gambia.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Going straight into the interview, we understand that the TRRC is going to cities around the world. In Europe, you're going to 3 countries, and in America, 4 cities, if I may be right. Now, tell us why you are in London.
Well, at this point in time, I am here on a personal visit. That is not to say that the TRRC is not coming to town. Of course, they'll be arriving on the 4th of this month of September, excuse me, for a trip around certain European cities. There is another group from the TRRC that is presently visiting cities in the US. And the purpose of this visit is very simple. The diaspora represent an important segment of Gambian society. In fact, I do understand that the present government considers the diaspora as the 8th non-resident region of the Gambia. And the fact that they also contribute significantly and immensely to the development of our society requires or necessitates their involvement and consultation in matters that really affect Gambia. And the TRRC process at the moment is one of the most important issues that is happening in our country at the moment. It is an important period of soul searching, a period wherein we reflect upon the past with a view to finding solutions for today's problems for the future. So it is therefore important, it's imperative that Gambians in the diaspora are also involved in the process. So this visit is aimed towards giving the diasporans the opportunity to participate in the TRRC activities and also give us, as the officials of the TRRC, to hold consultations with these Gambians with a view to also getting their views as to what they think we should do or what recommendations we can make to shape a better future for our country. That is the purpose of the visit. Okay.
These consultations, what format are they going to take?
The meetings we envisage are 2 types. We would have town hall meetings wherein you would have TRRC officials and Gambians, and presentations would be made as to what is happening at the TRRC, what are the problems, what institutional reforms are expected and things like that. And then the Gambians would be given the opportunity to either contribute to the discussion or to ask questions to seek clarifications for issues that they think are required to be clarified. That is the purpose of that's the style of the first encounter with Gambians. There is another encounter which could happen, which are individual meetings, like say for instance victims who are in Europe and who want to participate in the TRRC process by giving witness statements or making complaints are given the opportunity to do so. Some may require one-on-one consultations or discussions with members of the TRRC, either to share confidential information or to offer some advice and things like that. These are the types of meetings that are envisaged. As part of the process also, one important activity the TRRC is working on is the issue of reparations. But reparations is a very expensive venture. This would give us an opportunity to also raise funds from Gambians, share with them some of the needs of the victims, and see how best Gambians can assist in that regard. There are a number of Gambians in the West who are involved in certain charity ventures in Gambia. they can take into account, they can look into some of the needs of the victims in Gambia, and possibly they can reorient or organize their charities towards helping those victims of the TRRC, those victims who require or need reparations from the TRRC, with a view to alleviating their situation. So that can be a very meaningful exercise.
Okay, I was going to go straight on to some of the issues that you are encountering in terms of the constraints, in terms of progress so far. But you did touch on something important, which is reparation. There is understanding that you already got funds for that from the UNDP. How correct is that?
We do have funds for reparations. I'm not sure it's from the UNDP. I want to believe it's from the government of Qatar for reparations. But you know, it's not enough. The victims of rights violations over this period of 22 years are many. There are too many, and their needs are diverse and expensive to satisfy. I mean, obviously reparation does not necessarily mean giving everybody some financial compensation, you know, but there are other means of giving reparation, you know, but at the same time, what is available is hardly enough. We do believe Gambians can contribute to that endeavor, and both in terms of cash or in terms of kind. We have seen quite a number of Gambians in the diaspora who have come to assist certain victims whose plight are really serious. Like, say, for instance, the other day there's this victim of April 10th, 11 who is paralyzed. Somebody in Europe sent him a car to enable him to be mobile at least. But the victim could not also clear the vehicle from customs because the victim did not have the funds. That was not necessarily a TRRC activity, but we had to help find ways to, you know, help him secure his vehicle and be able to use it. So we had to use certain connections and get the government to be involved, and customs eventually waived all the duty and so forth. So these are things that can be done. There are charity organizations here run by Gambians. They can, you know, help provide wheelchairs to some of these people who need them, crutches and so forth. And there are some, I mean, who are orphans, and even basic things they do not have. You know, there could be charities here that could send used clothing and things like that. So there is a whole lot that can be done. And, you know, Gambians are generally charitable. And I am sure those in the diaspora can contribute significantly to the needs of some of these victims. And we are not ruling out anything. What the TRRC can do is match needs with charities that are available. So basically,
the reparation will be there, but it's not enough.
No, well, it would never be enough. Reparation would never be enough. You never have enough funds for reparation. You know, so whatever contribution Gambians can make towards that would be more than welcome.
Okay. You coming here with a delegation? It is said in certain quarters on social media, or people have also mentioned that you come with a large delegation that involves a lot of cost. Why not use that money and give it to the people who will need this?
I mean, you know, whatever decision that people make is always liable to criticism. You know, if the TRRC did not come, the diaspora can claim to be excluded from the process. So, but when we come, they can also claim that we are wasting money. So you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't do. But let's look. One point I have to make is that this is funding provided by UNDP, and that's what they would typically do in a normal situation like that of the Gambia. So does it add value? I think it does significant value, because otherwise I would not have been here talking to you. One could argue that your outfit could come to Gambia and interview me, but here is an opportunity. You can do it in your own turf without having to incur that expense, and I think if Gambians in the diaspora, you have about 60,000 Gambians in the diaspora, if a 10,000 can be in London and see the actors in this whole process and have direct conversations with them, I think it's worth it. But more importantly is the consultative process that comes out of this, and the cross-fertilization of ideas, and also giving ownership to Gambians of this process, where be it they are in Gambia or they are abroad. And I think it is worth it.
Wouldn't it be ideal to do it remotely instead of coming?
You see, you have seen quite a number of TRRC hearings in which we use all these technologies that are available. Some are done through Skype. It's never the same, is it? I mean, people have complained about those hearings because they don't offer you the most. But in fact, the use of those hearings shows that the TRRC is very conscious about cost. We try to reduce costs as much as possible. This is not a process in which we want to waste money. No, far from it. It's very, very conscious of the needs of the people as well. I think by every standard, this activity, this trip, is worth the while. I mean, giving Gambians ownership of it, getting them involved in the process is worth the price that we are paying for this. Okay. Not everybody would agree, but also Gambian society is maturing, and opinions are so diverse. It's impossible to have a nationwide consensus on issues. Not even the removal of Jammeh received a nationwide consensus, let alone an activity by the TRRC. So undoubtedly some people would not agree, but on a personal level, I think it is worth it.
Okay, coming back to the consultations, just to clarify, is it going to take the format of like the sittings that you do in Gambia, or is it going to be a Bantaba type, like you said earlier on, town hall version of it?
Yeah, well, people would be disappointed. There's no TRRC hearing in London wherein you would have a jungler sitting there being grilled by Horeja Bala Gay or by Maria Masingate. No. Or maybe Sagar Jaiteh. No, that's not it. There's not going to be a hearing here. What we would have would be a town hall meeting. I wish it could have been a Bantaba setting, but it would cause a lot of eyebrows if we were to sit under a tree here and in the UK and yes, and be discussing that. Indeed. So that is not the type. It's going to be a town hall style meeting. TRRC officials would be there. They'll give short presentations about what is going on, and people would ask questions or make suggestions and things like that. But there is also a more intimate conversation that can take place. Those are the private meetings between those who are interested and members of the TRRC. We also have statement takers in the delegation. There would be victims.
This one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Mind the Gap, the face of Gambia worldwide, is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFace Gambia TV.
InterFace TV, with us, the Gambia KANAM.
Imagine a private retreat buried deep in the forest. A special place to relax, recharge, and get in touch with our culture and nature. So go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
There would be victims who are here who perhaps for some reason we are not interested in giving statements or filing complaints, but the fact that we are here could convince them to file statements. We have statement takers in the margins who would be willing and available to take their statements.
Okay. The TRRC has been enacted, the law that created the TRRC in Parliament of Gambia,
Yes.
to look at what happened during Jammeh's period being president from 1994 to January 2017. Now, so far, what would be your assessment of progress at TRRC, if I can call progress?
Yes, I mean, we started in January. We are now in end of August, 8 months into the process. And I think that the revelations that have come out of the process are really simply mind-blowing, or mind-boggling for that matter. Gambians, at least I for one, never thought that the crimes or the violations that were revealed at the TRRC ever occurred in the Gambia. I never thought so. I never believed so. But more shocking is the fact that these were violations committed by Gambians on Gambians, or Gambians against Gambians. We never thought that that was the case. Many of us were under the mistaken belief that Jammeh employed mercenaries from Casamance, or from heartless mercenaries, I must say, from Casamance or other countries who were there to do the dirty job for him. It's only due to the TRRC that we are now able to get to the bottom of these things, to know that in fact these terrible crimes were being committed by Gambians on Gambians. So these are important revelations. We started with a number of themes we want to investigate. I think we are on the 5th one. We did July 22nd, the coup d'etat and what happened. And there were, previous to that, there were lots of theories as to how the coup happened. Now clearly we know what happened.
Yeah, able to establish different versions.
Yes, exactly.
And know which one is most likely to be
the true version. I mean, we have done the attack on the politicians soon after the coup d'etat. Nobody thought that what happened to O.J. Jallow, Ousseynou Njie, Ousseynou Dabo and others actually took place. People just thought they were simply detained. But we did not know about the terrible tortures that happened there at the Fajara barracks. We also did the issue of November 11. Nobody knew that those terrible extrajudicial killings occurred. I mean, the other day I met a woman at the TRRC. She was always under the belief that the husband went back way, but the husband was killed November 11.
And that came out in the process of...
Yes, it came out, yes. You see. So we also did Usman Korosise. There were rumors there, and Freedom newspaper, did talk about a lot of these things in some detail. But the truth as to exactly what happened came to light at the TRRC. Some of it may confirm what may have been said in Freedom newspaper or other online Gambian newspapers, or debunked some of those ideas, but at least now Gambians got to know the truth about all those issues. I mean, and today just recently we've heard the stories of 6 junglers. These were stories that, you would hear now and again that they were junglers, they were killers and things like that. But these stories that came out really, changed a lot of the beliefs that some of us held previously. And so by and large, I think we have made significant progress. But this is investigative work. It's also a quasi-judicial process, so it won't be easy. I commend the investigators that we have at the TRRC for the good job they are doing, being able to get the necessary witnesses to unearth these terrible violations that have occurred some 20-something years ago. So we thank them for the tireless job they are doing in helping to bring out
those things.
Yes.
Okay, take us through the process. Some of the witnesses, when they come, it appears that they're already giving you testimony, just you leading them, asking them questions to clarify. Is this how it is?
Well, like I said, it's an investigative process. So there's a lot of work that happened in the background before the witnesses ever come to testify. Oftentimes they would have to give a statement explaining what they know. Sometimes in this statement you can get the truth. Sometimes what you have in the statement is patently false. All right. For regular witnesses, because we have a witness selection system, you select witnesses of those who can give you the truth. But for those who are adversely mentioned, they have to be given an opportunity to come and vindicate themselves. You see, so you have those two tracks. Okay. In fact, if I may, you have three tracks. One is a victim's track. Like if a person is victimized, because this is a victim-centered approach, we give them an opportunity to come and talk about their own victimization. But okay, sometimes you have too many victims on a particular issue, so you have to select which of those victims to call as witnesses. So you have to look at age, gender, gravity of victimization, region where the person came from, and even ethnicity sometimes, because we want to have the broadest spectrum of all the victimization. Okay. Right? If you have 2 adults and 2 children, you would want to call 1 adult and 1 child.
And a woman.
You see, if you have a woman and a man, you would also want to call the woman. So that way we have the broadest spectrum of the victimization. But that is for victims. For witnesses, we also look at who are those witnesses who can give us what is closest to the truth. So we assess their evidence, we look at credibility of the witness. That is fundamental. That is very important. You don't want to call a witness who will come and feed you lies or would feed you different and conflicting stories. You want to look at the credibility of the witness, okay, and the plausibility of this narrative that the witness is going to give you. So, and we do not take this process of witness selection very lightly. The other day somebody commented that the TRRC witness selection shows a particular logic, and we are happy to hear that, because that shows we are doing a good job at our witness selection.
Sometimes it appears the selection process in trying to get people who will definitely be on the panel to be asked questions look like some of them will fall through your process, because at some point you will realize that some of the witnesses will come and confess lying.
Yes, but those are the perpetrators.
Okay.
For the perpetrators, because they have been adversely mentioned, the law requires that they be given an opportunity to clear themselves. So the system is that you give them an opportunity to write this, to give a statement. We can base everything on the statement they submit, or we can call them to appear publicly as witnesses. And that is always often the preferred option, because the allegations that are made against them are made in a public forum. It is just fitting or fair that when they are given the chance to respond, they are given the same platform as their accusers.
Right to reply.
Yes, they are right to reply. So, but for those people too, a lot of them would come and lie. Simply because, I mean, it is difficult to come on a public forum and admit commission of certain heinous crimes.
Was it challenging squeezing truth from some of the witnesses, as far as you're concerned?
Well, it is always challenging. I mean, to be quite candid, I know that a lot of Gambians, that's the part of the TRRC they enjoy the most, when a witness or a perpetrator comes before the commission, lies through his testimony and is grilled and squeezed by counsel, and ultimately a confession is extracted from the witness. That's the part they enjoy the most. But for me, as lead counsel, I think that is the most tiring bit. That is the most discouraging bit. And that is the bit I don't like at all. I would have preferred that since this is a truth-telling or truth-seeking activity, that people would just come and speak the truth, and we all try to forge a way ahead through healing, closure and reconciliation. But unfortunately, human beings don't behave like that. They're more complicated than that. Generally, they'll make things very difficult. I understand it is hard for a grown man to come and sit before the whole nation on prime-time national TV and say, I killed X, Y, and Z in the most gruesome way. It's difficult, and I understand. So we have to do what we have to do as lawyers in order to get the information from the witnesses. We have tools in our arsenal to question witnesses. So
sometimes some of the tools that you employ, sometimes people laugh, but they're serious issues. For instance, when Jallo, Oya Jal Oya, aka Oya, also known as one of the junglers, mentioned that one of the victims that he killed gave him 100 euros, and then begging him not to, not to let him die without his confession. And you ask him, what did you do with the money? And I quote, he said, I ate the money. And he did ask, and everybody started laughing, and he was saying, no, it's not a serious matter.
Yes, I mean, it's a very serious matter. I mean, I just wanted to show, by that question, I wanted to show how callous these people were, how inconsiderate they were. Here is this person who's so desperate that he had to leave his country to seek greener pastures through the back way. You parade a good number of them and executed them in a very heartless manner. To just take that money from this person and spend it like it's just something you would do normally. Somebody's just giving you $100. And I think that was heartless. And I asked that question just to bring out that fact, to show that this person, he may be remorseful now, but as at the time he was doing it, he had no humanitarian considerations.
And the manner in which he justified using it was ridiculous. I think it's no wonder people laughed, but really was like...
Well,
Mind the Gap, the face of Gambia worldwide, is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFace Gambia TV.
InterFace TV. With us, the Gambia KANAM REEKKK.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
At the heart of the Gambian way of life is the village and family. We have a vibrant and diverse culture full of music, dance, art, and a love of life. It's all around you, and you can feel it too. From the river comes fire. It brings light to the forest, wealth to its people, and new life to this fertile land. The love of nature and culture, the beautiful sun and sea, a land of friendship and peace. Gambia has it all and more. So go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Heart-wrenching.
Yes, exactly. I think it just puts to rest the fact that these people were terrible human beings, and that is just a little example to show how heartless they were, So, well, that's the way it is. But for a lot of these people, it is difficult for them to come and just confess like that. They would come and want to maybe confess to the most innocuous or the least serious violation, and they would want to deny the rest of what they have done.
Sometimes say, I was there, but I didn't take part.
Exactly. So gradually we have to find ways to get them to testify to the truth, and sometimes we succeed. Sometimes we don't succeed as much as we would want to, but then it becomes very clear to everybody how truthful the witness was. If they are lying, I think it becomes clear that they are lying, and where they confess, we get their admission of what has happened.
So the primary focus, or most of the focus of the commissioners, is to try and squeeze out the truth, and nothing else.
But the truth. Yes. Because this is the truth-seeking part. The TRRC process is complex. What people generally see on television is the hearing part, that is the truth-seeking part. But there are other activities that perhaps people would get to be more exposed of in the future. And this is the outreach activities where the TRRC meets communities. Wherein they sit with communities and discuss the problems. We do have women listening circles where only women sit and discuss the problems and discuss the issues. We do have situations where we bring in schools. Like the children would sit with TRRC officials and discuss what are the violations, how these things can be avoided in the future, and get their pledge to, it's just like creating better citizens out of them. So there are lots of activities that are going on in the process.
You have a justice component of it.
Yes, if you look at the legislation, one of the most important functions of the TRRC would be to identify those who bear the greatest responsibility for the crimes committed and recommend them for prosecution. So that is the justice component. On this, I think I have to congratulate the Minister of Justice for being very smart and pragmatic in his approach to Gambia's TRRC. He has learned that TRRCs that have been done alongside with a justice component or with prosecutions going on at the same time with the truth-seeking activity has jeopardized, in fact, the truth-seeking activity. And such commissions did not really succeed as much as they could have. So in his abundant wisdom and experience, he decided to postpone the justice element of the transitional justice program until the truth-seeking activity has been concluded. And that time, the TRRC would recommend who is to be prosecuted, and then the justice component would kick off at the time. So this arrangement is such that we do not have the problems that the TRRC or the TRRCs had. For instance, in East Timor, I was leading prosecutions, whereas the TRRC was going on. So, I mean, our accused persons never confessed before the TRRC because they knew that they were being prosecuted by us. So theirs did not succeed as much as it could. Sierra Leone as well, there was the special court for Sierra Leone. So accused persons or senior members of these military groups that were being investigated were being prosecuted in the court, so in the special court for Sierra Leone. So they would not go to the Truth Commission to confess. But we are now succeeding significantly simply because the justice component is postponed. It's delayed until a later stage after the truth-seeking part is done. And I commend the Minister of Justice really for doing that, and also for giving us the opportunity to work in this process.
So in this case, justice delayed, would it lead to justice being denied?
Not necessarily. Our people have waited 22 years to know what has happened during the Jammeh regime. I think we can wait a few more years to have prosecutions done.
And I think it has created some kind of uproar in, if you like to call it, in the Gambian community, seeing those who confess to murders being released from jail. What's your take on that?
Okay, I need to clarify this. First of all, this was not a TRRC activity. This was a decision by the Minister of Justice, and it is in his responsibility to make that decision.
Is it the right one? In your opinion?
In my personal opinion, it was the right decision, simply because he applied the correct law. I am always on the side of the law, always on the side of justice. So I commend him for being so courageous and being so bold as to take that decision, knowing fully well that the public at that time was not fully behind him in that decision. But this is the stuff for leaders. This is how leaders are made. You have tough decisions and you take the tough decision. That is, and I really tip my hat for him. It was not an easy decision for him to make.
What assurance would you give to victims and families of victims that this delay in delivering justice is not going to be a denial in the end?
I think the people have to give the TRRC process the opportunity to investigate and get to the truth about what has happened. And after the truth has been unearthed, then those who are to be prosecuted would be prosecuted. But we cannot be doing the prosecution simultaneously with the investigations. Then everybody would be disappointed. We would not know the truth about what has happened, and we wouldn't be able to convict those who committed the crimes. So in order to be successful in both ends, we have to do things properly. And the Attorney General was so smart enough to be able to identify a mechanism or an arrangement or a sequencing of events that would enable us to be successful on both ends of the spectrum, to get to the truth and also to successfully prosecute those who are responsible for the crimes.
Okay. And now, some of the definitions,
yes,
especially you look at the armed forces, some of the witnesses who have come there seem to ascribe to a kind of a mentality in the army. And you mentioned that part of the TRRC's mandate is to seek out the truth but also give recommendations. And some of the deliberations or some of the sittings, especially like I mentioned, the armed forces personnel who came there seem to have a mentality about the rule of law and their role as members of the armed forces in the community.
Yes, I think that one of the most important revelations in the TRRC is the mindset of the Gambian soldiers, especially in two important aspects. One is the issue of unlawful orders, because they generally seem to believe that orders are orders, they are to be implemented regardless of whether the orders are lawful or unlawful. And that is definitely contrary to law. It's contrary to the laws of the Gambia. You see, the laws are there to guide the people to ensure that they comply with the law. So if you have soldiers who think that they can do whatever they are ordered, regardless of the legality of those orders, then I think we are in trouble. And that is why a lot of the violations occurred. If you listen to some of these guys, what they tell you is so frightening. Right? If you think the order is wrong, go back to the order. That is a crazy mindset.
That means the person understands is wrong, but
exactly.
is there, they will do it.
So exactly. So what this therefore means to us is that these people have to be re-educated about the relationship between superior and subordinate, the relationship between commander and subordinate, such that they would not fall foul of the law, because for a lot of them, they simply got it wrong, either because they were not properly trained, or they were just deliberately closing their eyes to a known fact. But either way, I think it shows that these people need to be re-educated on these particular issues, or be trained properly. There was this other notion also that the army has a responsibility to cleanse the society if they think, or to remove a government if they think the government is not doing well. Well, with that mindset, there would be no end to coup d'etats in our society. And we are in this mess during the Jammeh era simply because of a coup d'etat. And it's also a blatant violation of the law. You just don't usurp the constitution simply because you think that a particular government is not doing well. That's not the responsibility of an army. Power belongs to the people. Let the people decide who governs them and how they are to be governed.
It must be very frustrating for you as a human rights lawyer who's practiced in different places around the world, hearing people try to redefine, for instance, what torture is. Because if I can recall, Alhaji Martin, General Martin, to be precise, trying to argue with you on what is torture and what is not torture. And I remember you mentioned to him, you call it beating, we are calling it torture. It must be frustrating for you. Indeed,
but also it reflects the mindset of the soldiers. Alhaji Martin, his current rank is general. It's deeply disappointing that a general in an army would not know exactly what torture is. So it reflects.
He made a very a parallel. We can be ridiculous, but at the same time also, if you don't look at it on a deep level, it might equate, because he said there are beatings in school. You don't call them torture.
Yes, that's true. There is what is reasonable chastisement. There is what is punishing to discipline somebody. But what they were doing was neither of those. They were beating people with the objective of extracting information. And that is torture. That is in fact the classical definition of torture. And General Martin ought to have known that. But the fact that you would have a general in the army who does not even have a very clear notion as to what is the international law definition of torture, it's scary. It shows that our army, our soldiers really need retraining and re-education. It shows that our army needs to be reorganized. It shows that ranks should not just be given to people simply because they were there. They should be given to people who are qualified and deserve it. And I think that is what to be learned from General Martin's testimony.
There may be few or many instances, maybe if you can recall a few of them, that you're really pleased to have happened at the TRRC.
Yes, I was really pleased that, I think testimony is very important. Each of those testimonies we had was very, very, very important. And we selected our witnesses carefully. I recall Bachsamba Jallo, the first testimony in which we heard these gruesome tortures. It was heart-rending. It was terrible. That day I felt so bad. I listened also to MC Cham and OJ Jallo. It was crazy what happened to those people. Growing up in Gambian society, respect for elders was very important to us. And to see our elders, our statesmen, people who negotiated our independence being treated so badly and so brutally by their sons and nephews was deeply disturbing to me. When you do these cases in international or internationalized tribunals, these victims are just random names and numbers. They don't mean too much to us. But doing it in Gambia, it's difficult because these are our fathers, our aunties, our uncles, our sisters.
Especially the country is small, the population.
We are all interconnected.
Everybody knows everyone.
Everybody knows everyone. So that's why it was terrible. The other day, we had this testimony of this Mani lady, victim of rape. She was 15 when she was raped by. It's terrible. So each of the testimonies we had at the TRRC are crazy. Look at the testimony of Alaji Kanye. Terrible. Look at the testimony of Sana Savali. Terrible. So to be quite candid, yes, I am happy with the results that we are getting. But with each testimony, I get saddened by what has happened in our country. None of this should have happened. None of this should have happened.
Okay. The reconciliation part, has it started already?
Yes. Some reconciliation is going on. There would, at some stage, be more public reconciliations.
Okay.
All right.
But the witnesses will come and say, "I'd like to apologize to the nation."
No, there would be
beyond that.
There would be reconciliation meetings, Bantaba settings, where there would be grand reconciliation meetings. So all the parameters have not yet been decided, but these things would happen. But even already at this stage, some reconciliation is ongoing. I recall when Sana Sabali testified, I received a text message from the widows of one of the victims saying that their family forgive Sana. I read it out at the commission. There was the Fuller lady who was shot by members of the Sana Sabali entourage. She had the opportunity to forgive him.
And wanted reparation as well.
Yes, but she stood there and said she would not forgive unless and until she receives compensation. But she had previously received compensation from the state.
She's already received now.
She had received. Already at that time, she had received 100,000, I understand, from the state. But perhaps maybe that is not enough by her expectations. So she probably wanted more. But that aside, we have seen videos emerge of Sana Sabali embracing with this person. What's his name again? I forgot the name again. But one of the soldiers who was shot at Yundum Barracks, and Sana helped to assist him, get him taken to Alaji Kebe. Yes, there was some interesting reconciliation between Kebe and his family and Sana Sabali on the other side, and it was deeply moving. We have, during commission hearings, perpetrators who would sit there and beg for forgiveness from members of families of the victims and so on. So I think that is a very, very fine or beautiful aspect of the TRRC process. Gambians, we are very forgiving people. We want our peace. And through the commission, I have seen that reinforced in Gambian society. And I am always deeply touched when I see Gambians asking for forgiveness and the people being willing to give forgiveness. And that speaks volumes about who we are as a people. And I am deeply moved by that.
Finally, are you going to get Jammeh come to the commission?
I cannot guarantee that we would get Jammeh to the commission, but I can guarantee that barring death, Jammeh would face justice.
Okay.
Yes, at some stage he would face justice. And the reason why I say this is that we have seen Pinochet. He was much more powerful than Jammeh. When he left office, he ran all over the world. Ultimately, they had to catch him and bring him to justice. We have seen Hussein Habre,
former leader of Chad.
Former leader of Chad. 24 years on the run. Ultimately, they got him. He faced justice. I don't think Jammeh would enjoy all that latitude. Believe me.
Equatorial Guinea?
Will I?
If Jammeh can't come to Gambia?
No, I don't. The prospects of Jammeh appearing before the commission are very slim.
Appearing before Jammeh?
Well, the commission can't appear before Jammeh, but yes, but it's the prospects of the commission sitting with Jammeh are remote. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but it is remote.
Has the research team started contacting Equatorial Guinea government?
I cannot comment on certain activities of the commission. They have to be confidential.
On me now.
Yes, but that's the nature of the job. So yes, but
because the reason why I said that in section 15 of the TRRC Act is you can request information from relevant individuals and governments, foreign governments as well.
Yes, that is more with regards to evidence and so forth. But going back to the question, I think Jammeh will face justice someday. If death does not rob us of him before we get to that stage, he would face justice someday. I am almost certain that he would, because there are two important things that are at play. The local process in Gambia and what is happening in the international arena. Some of the killings of foreign nationals, we know that some 56, let's say 55 non-Gambians or West Africans were killed in Gambia, and one Gambian to make 56 victims. That alone justifies his prosecution, either before an international court or by the courts of those countries whose victims were whose nationals were killed in Gambia, or by a trial by Gambia itself. So I don't see him escaping all three possibilities. That is why I am hopeful that someday he would be prosecuted. And also, I mean, as a lawyer, criminal lawyer, rights advocate, I cannot but just hope and pray and push and encourage and support all efforts to bring Jammeh to justice. And until that happens, Gambia should not be satisfied with the results of the work that we are doing.
Okay. I said final, but this is a subsidiary final question.
Okay.
If that is something that I can say. How long have you got? Do you have a time frame that you're working towards?
Well, the TRRC process, the mandate is 2 years with the possibility of an extension of maybe 1 more year. But you see, the wheels of justice may be slow, but they can also be very efficient. You know, after the TRRC, after all is said and done, the report issued and published, the effort to bring Jammeh to justice will never cease until Jammeh is arrested and put before a court of law to answer to the charges, to answer to the crimes that he committed. And until that happens, there would be organizations, individuals, and institutions that would not stop claiming or calling for him to be brought to justice. And I am proud to say that I am one of those people.
Okay.
Because that is what he deserves.
Okay.
The Gambian people did not deserve the violations that the Jammeh government meted out on the people. And we have to set a good example. If our Never Again campaign is to be successful, we have to show the capacity to investigate these things and bring to justice those who bear the greatest responsibility for the crimes. Jammeh, in my book, would be one such person, and I think he deserves to be prosecuted. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Essa Faal, lead counsel at the Gambia's TRRC, Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, that was set up in 2018 to investigate some of the atrocities, or all of the atrocities that happened under Jammeh's rule from July 94 to January 2017. Basically to look into what has happened, document it, and also ensure that it never happens again. Mr. Faal, on a quick note, just a quick reminder of your meetings in London, maybe do some PR for you.
That would be welcome.
You're going to, you'll be in London to have a town hall meeting type, but also opportunity for people to meet members of your research team to talk about things that happened to them, and also give out some of their opinions and discuss with them. And this is going to happen on the 7th of September.
For London.
For London. And Birmingham will be on the 8th.
On the 8th, yes.
And Manchester on the 9th.
Yes.
And
and we hope people would come in their numbers, and you know,
people go to work.
Yes.
But I hope it's going to be on live as usual on your TRRC social media pages.
I think it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from London you will be going to which other countries?
From the UK we'll go to Sweden. And then to Norway. Yes, Stockholm and Oslo. You know, this is a unique opportunity, really, for us in the TRRC to be able to meet the Gambians in the diaspora. And I also hope that the Gambians would take the opportunity to come out in their numbers, and so we all can have a conversation about
another team in the US as well.
Yes, the team in the US, they've just started. They started yesterday, and they had very good meetings with those in the US. Very good conversation about what is going on in our country, and how that can contribute in charting a good way for the future.
Okay, and they'll be in New York, DC,
New York, DC, Seattle, and Atlanta and Seattle. Yes.
Yeah, they'll be in those cities.
That's right.
Again, I say thank you very much. We hope to have you again on our sofa at InterFace Gambia. And we would love to talk about Essa Faal as a person, but that will be for another time.
Yeah, indeed.
I think you have an illustrious career
thank you.
in the media. In the law world in the law fraternity. You worked at the ICC and also had experience doing some reconciliation commissions before at East Timor, and also participated in some of the commissions around Africa. And I think you're one of those people that we would love to showcase on our platform at some point, by prominent Gambians who are really doing well in their own field and also contributing to national development. But that's another time. And
I look forward to
organize another meeting, and we chat exclusively about your work, because I think it's fascinating. You were a child still lawyer, even still now you are, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, but again, thank you so much for being on our show again, and I say thank you.
Well, before I say thank you and bye-bye, I just want to take this last opportunity to tell my Gambian brothers, sisters, aunties and uncles out there in the UK to come to the TRRC engagements with the Gambians in the diaspora and share with us your views and ideas as to how we can fashion a better future for our country. And how we can bring about better reconciliation of the people in our country, and how we can ensure that our Never Again campaign would be a huge success. Already it's being touted as one of the most successful TRRCs so far, but we want your contribution, we want to hear from you. We want your own ideas as to how we can make this a huge success, not just for Gambia, but for Africa and for the rest of the world. Thank you.
All right, you've had him. Essa Faal, Lead Counsel, Gambia's TRRC, Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. But before we say bye-bye, we will say our condolences to the family of Sadawada, of course, the whole nation of the Gambia. We lost our founding father of our independence, the people who struggle, and Sadawada. If you want to say much about Sadawada, perhaps you will need a longer program to talk about him. But again, Sadawada is one of the illustrious sons of Africa who fought dearly for Gambia's independence, but also a personality in the democratic world, especially someone who did well in ensuring that Africa Commission on Human Rights is established, and also have its headquarters in Banjul, but also a lot of things Sadawada brought in the Gambia in terms of tolerance, peace. I think he's one of the best, if not the world, in Africa.
I will call him a champion of democracy, human rights and the rule of law. With all that wrapped up in one person, you can't find a better leader. And I hope that our leaders of the future would emulate Sadawada's values as a leader. His values, his respect and penchant for the rule of law. His commitment to democratic values and his commitment to human rights. Those are the most important ingredients for development of any society. And I do hope that his legacy would be used as a beacon for future leaders to come. And I do hope that the current leadership would also learn from his tolerance and from his embrace of the law as the only sensible tool to govern a society. That's all I have to say. Okay. We were really lucky to have a leader like him.
All right, rest in peace, Sadawada. May God grant you eternal peace. And we say to the whole nation, condolence to you. And flags are still flying half-mast in the Gambia. And Sadawada definitely will be missed. And we wish, like Mr. Faal said, that our present leaders and leaders to come would emulate the values that Sadawada had. And on that note, we say thank you so much for being there, watching us wherever you are. You're watching InterFace Gambia. And we say thank you. Be at the meetings in London, Birmingham, and also in Manchester, starting on the 7th in London, in Ilford here. And there will be Forest Gate actually. The address, if you follow TRRC, go online, you see the meeting points will be mentioned on their social media pages or the website. You find all the details there. But also in Birmingham and in Manchester. Birmingham on the 8th, in Manchester on the 9th, and they'll go to other European cities. But follow them up on their social media pages, on their website, the TRRC, Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. It's been a pleasure having Essa Faal. On that note, good night. Bye-bye.